Stewart Weldon pleaded guilty to a slew of charges, which ensures that he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Notably, Weldon pled to each of the 3 murders he committed, which today formally result in his being sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences, each without the possibility of parole. This kind of plea is extraordinary and rare and avoids the tremendous resources involved in trying this kind of case and any risk involved in a post-conviction process. This, however, did not come easily or simply. The complexity and work involved in this investigation and prosecution is frankly rather unprecedented. The investigative work led by Captain Trent Duda, who's here to my right, and his team with the Springfield Police Department, a homicide unit, and forensic team was highly skilled and first class. In fact, I recall being at the scene for several days after the discovery of the crimes committed by Mr. Weldon. I was joined there by numerous Springfield Police Department officers, members of my office. Those days were hot and very long. 2 members of Captain Duda's team in particular, really many members, went into the ground because there was a suspicion of evidence, dug holes approximately 4 feet deep, and were in those holes. Jim McCoy, Juan Estrada in particular, were in Tyvek suits and hand dug with a shovel holes looking for evidence, looking for victims in 90-degree weather. And the detectives and all involved put incredible effort and commitment forward to bring this case to where it ended today. Members of the Springfield Police Department after skillfully processed that very complicated crime scene, which proved to provide an abundance of physical evidence. In the days and months afterward, members of the Springfield Police Department and members of my office worked this investigation and followed up with the living survivors who ultimately came forward and whose cooperation and testimony only stretched the bounds of what we learned about Weldon's depravity. As a result, in August of 2018, the case was presented to a grand jury, resulting in a remarkable 52-count indictment against Stewart Weldon. The work after that involved hours on end of organizing, preparing, and presenting a case. And a case of this magnitude has responsibilities nothing short of enormously difficult and time-consuming. The work was taken on head-on by our team and done with skill and integrity and led to this virtually unprecedented plea of pleas to 3 consecutive life sentences. This result would not have happened without the combined work of the prosecutors, advocate staff, and police who worked late into evenings and almost every weekend in the last several months. Their work and this result makes me incredibly proud to lead this office and stand here today. First and foremost, I want to thank Assistant District Attorney and Chief Trial Counsel and the lead prosecutor in this case, Max Bennett. Max did a phenomenal job, and his commitment to this job and his commitment to this case and to those victims and their families is something to be applauded and admired, and it makes me very proud to call him a colleague. And the work he did for those living victims, as you heard expressed in the courtroom, was remarkable. He brought forward women who in most cases had been marginalized in society, who had been abused and forgotten about, and had no confidence in the system or anybody around them. He and our team, including Margot Piella, the victim witness advocate, brought them forward, worked with them day after day, week after week, and month after month, preparing for trial. And we had every confidence to believe that they would have come forward and testified truthfully in order to convict Stewart Weldon. And that work and that preparation that Max and Margot did with these women resulted not only in favorable futures, better futures for these women, but also in this plea today. Without that, without their courage, it wouldn't have happened. I also want to thank Assistant District Attorney Janine Simonian, who served as co-counsel to Max Bennett, Chief of Appeals Kate McMahon, who was always is an incredible resource, and again, victim witness advocate Margot Piella. I want to speak again to the courage of those women. I want to thank them and express my admiration, as that many of them spoke today in court about what they suffered at Stewart Weldon's hands. Their courageousness and their willingness to relive the trauma they faced played a significant role in this case ending with the resounding sentence that was just imposed on Mr. Weldon. I'm thankful to those survivors and also to the families of the victims whose losses will never fully be realized or cured. The families of Kayla Escalante, Ernestine Ryans, and America Leiden, who will never have their loved one back and whose loss and suffering will never abate. I do, however, hope that today's sentencing brings them some peace and some measure of justice. The horrors wrought by Stewart Weldon are indescribable, grotesque, and cruel, and we hope to never see or experience something like that again in our community. However, I want all survivors of crime, families of crime victims, and the public at large to know we will be unwavering in our work as a team, despite any challenge, to protect our community and to hold those accountable who choose to do harm and disregard the sanctity of human life. Again, I thank the assembled team here for their hard work from day one throughout. We're really proud of this result and pleased that the case is ending with justice being delivered upon Stewart Weldon. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, a DA Gulluni question here. It seemed as if part of the deal was that Stewart Weldon would be serving his term in Florida. I heard also MCI Cedar Junction in Hampden County House of Correction. Can you just explain to me where he'll be serving his sentences?
Right, so that's not entirely accurate. As a part of the agreement, a recommendation was made to the court that's non-binding, that the court make a recommendation to the Massachusetts Department of Correction that Mr. Weldon be transferred. Even the court's recommendation, were the court to accept it, is non-binding on the Department of Correction. That's a decision that will be made down the line solely at the discretion of the Massachusetts Department of Correction, and it's entirely possible, if not equally likely, or more likely than not, he'll serve his sentence in Massachusetts.
What was it like, Max, to convince the living victims to come forward and cooperate with law enforcement?
It was a bit of a process, obviously, given what they've gone through. There was some initial hesitance, but it was actually quite inspiring because, as I said in court today, none of these women had come forward before. They were afraid to, didn't think they'd be believed. And it was when they saw on the news that it was America and Ernestine and Kayla, and they're women that they all knew and loved. That's what brought them forward. So it was quite inspiring seeing their courage, their willingness to come in here and have their lives upended, as often happens with victims in a criminal case, be questioned on every bad decision they made, and they were willing to work through that. And as I said in court, it's their courage that brought us to this point. So it was very inspiring to me.
Do you think, I noticed something in a motion in the minute. Do you think that he killed more women than we know?
I'm not going to speak to that more specifically than to say there's no evidence to show that he committed any other crimes. That's where I'll leave it.
Anybody else?
Thank you.